The sound witnesses say echoes through the swamps of Arkansas, will chill you to your bones. The cry of the beast of Boggy Creek. And it's not alone. For generations, stories of giant, hairy monsters have haunted the American South. Forget the classic tales of Sasquatch in the misty forests of the Pacific Northwest. Down here, in the oppressive humidity and ancient, tangled swamps, the legends feel older, stranger, and a whole lot more terrifying. Today we're heading deep into the shadows to hunt for the 5 most infamous of these southern monsters. The American South is a land of deep history, rich folklore, and woods so thick you can get lost 10 feet from the road. It's a place where stories are woven into the landscape itself, passed down for generations on front porches and around campfires. And while most of the world is looking for Bigfoot in faraway mountains, a whole other family of creatures has been stalking the bayous and river bottoms right under our noses. And these aren't just cheap copies of Sasquatch. Each has its own horrifying description, its own bizarre behaviors, and its own chilling list of eyewitnesses. They have names that have been whispered in local towns for over a century. Names like the Skunk Ape, the White Thang, and the Fouke Monster. So we're counting down the 5 most legendary of these southern cryptids, from the haunted backwoods of Texas to the fetid swamps of Florida, to shine a light on what might be hiding just beyond the tree line. We start in the Lone Star State, a place so big it could hide just about anything. In the dense, humid, piney woods of East Texas, they don't just talk about Bigfoot. They talk about the wild man. Texas has a long history of sightings, with some reports going all the way back to the 1800s. One of the oldest is the Wild Man of the Navidad River, a legend from the 1830s about a hairy, naked man who terrorized settlers, stole their livestock, and left nothing but fear behind. Fast forward to today, and the sightings haven't stopped. They're concentrated in places like the Sam Houston National Forest and the sprawling Big Thicket National Preserve. Witnesses all tell a similar story. A massive bipedal creature, well over 7 feet tall. It's covered in dark hair and moving with terrifying speed. Truck drivers have slammed on their brakes as a huge, human-like figure crosses a remote road in a single step. Hikers have reported an 8-foot-tall, ape-like creature just watching them from the trees before it simply melts back into the forest. The sounds are just as creepy. Guttural howls at night, and the sharp crack of tree branches being snapped by something incredibly strong. The legend is so much a part of the local culture that Jefferson, Texas, is known as the state's Bigfoot capital, hosting the annual Texas Bigfoot Conference that draws in researchers and witnesses from all over. Groups like the Texas Bigfoot Research Center work tirelessly, documenting every encounter and trying to piece the puzzle together. So, what are people seeing? Skeptics point to the obvious, the black bear. East Texas has plenty of them, and a big one standing on its hind legs can look shockingly human, especially at dusk. The howls, it could be coyotes, or even barred owls, whose calls can sound eerily human. But for the people who've had an encounter, that simple explanation doesn't cut it. They describe a creature that moves with an intelligence that doesn't match any known animal in Texas. They talk about being watched, studied, and sometimes hunted. Is it all just folklore, or is the wild man of Texas still out there? Moving north from Texas, we land in Oklahoma, where Bigfoot isn't just a story, it's practically a local celebrity. The hotspot for sightings is the rugged, densely forested southeastern part of the state, especially in the Kiamichi Mountains near the tiny town of Onobia. This isn't just a place with a few stories, it's a certified hotspot, so much so that it hosts the annual Onobia Bigfoot Festival and Conference, drawing thousands of believers, researchers, and curious tourists every fall. The Oklahoma Sasquatch is usually described in classic Bigfoot terms: tall, hairy, and walking on 2 feet. But the encounters here often feel intensely personal and way too close for comfort. One of the most infamous cases is the siege at Onobia, where a family in 2000 claimed they were harassed for nights on end. They said a creature kept coming onto their porch, rattling their doorknob and even stealing deer meat from an outdoor freezer. While strange chattering and screams echoed from the hills around them, these kinds of persistent territorial encounters are what make the Oklahoma legend so frightening. The culture around this creature is real. The legend is so big that Oklahoma lawmakers once debated creating an official Bigfoot hunting season not to hurt the creature, but to promote tourism and embrace it as a local icon. At the annual festival, you can take bus tours of sighting hotspots and listen to first-hand accounts from locals, who feel safe to share their stories without being laughed at. Of course, skeptics say it's a mix of folklore, misidentified bears, and the power of suggestion in a community that fully embraces the legend. But the people of Enobia will tell you differently. They talk about tree knocks, the sound of wood hitting wood echoing through the valleys as a form of communication. They find massive, unexplainable footprints in the mud. To them, the Oklahoma Sasquatch isn't a myth. It's a neighbor, a very large, very hairy neighbor who prefers to be left alone. Now we head into the heart of the Deep South, to Alabama, home of our most ghostly and unsettling cryptid. Forget the dark, earthy colors of a typical Bigfoot, the woods between Morgan, Atiwa, and Jefferson counties. People report something far stranger, the Alabama white thing. Reports of this creature go back to the early 1900s, peaking in the 1930s and 40s. What makes the white thing so creepy is its completely bizarre appearance. Witnesses describe a creature standing 6 to 8 feet tall, covered in shaggy, brilliant white fur. Its eyes are often said to glow red, and it lets out a sound that's consistently described as one of the most horrifying things you could ever hear. A piercing screech that sounds exactly like a woman screaming in terror. The descriptions of its body are all over the place, which only adds to the mystery. Some say it looks like a tall albino Bigfoot. Others claim it's built more like a massive white lion, or even a kangaroo with a cat's head. It's said to be incredibly fast, able to stand on 2 legs before dropping to all 4s and leaping over fences with terrifying ease. One of the strangest parts of the lore is that it's supposedly drawn to death. Old-timers claim the white thing was most often seen near funeral wakes, as if drawn in by the sorrow or scent. So what could it possibly be? Well, the theories are as wild as the sightings. The logical guess is a misidentified animal, like an albino black bear or a large cougar. Others, pointing to Alabama's rich biodiversity, think it could be a truly undiscovered species. But many lean into the supernatural, suggesting the white thing isn't an animal at all, but a spirit of the woods. That would explain its ghostly white appearance and its ability to vanish without a trace. Whatever it is, the white thing remains one of the South's most frightening legends, a ghostly figure haunting the Alabama backwoods. Let's head down to the humid, subtropical wilderness of Florida, a land of swamps, alligators, and a legend with a seriously pungent reputation, the skunk ape, often called Florida's Bigfoot. The skunk ape is described as a large, ape-like creature about 5 to 7 feet tall with long, reddish-brown hair. But its defining feature, the one that gives it the name, is its overpowering, disgusting smell. Witnesses describe a stench like rotting garbage, skunk spray, and sour mold all mixed together. A smell so bad it can make your eyes water. This isn't some news story. Tales of a wild, hairy, and stinking creature have long been a part of the folklore of the indigenous Seminole and Miccosukee tribes. Published reports from settlers about man-sized monkeys date back to 1818. With sightings picking up steam in the 1950s, the creature is said to live deep in the impenetrable swamps of the Everglades, the Big Cypress National Preserve, and Myakka River State Park. The most famous evidence we have are the Myakka skunk ape photographs. Taken in the year 2000, these pictures, mailed anonymously to the Sarasota County Sheriff's Department, show a large, dark, hairy creature peeking out from behind some palm fronds. Critics say it's just a person in a costume or maybe an escaped orangutan, but the photos remain some of the most debated images in cryptid history. People like researcher David Shealy have dedicated their lives to proving it's real from his skunk ape research headquarters in the Everglades. Sightings are still reported to this day, with recent encounters in places like the Ocala National Forest, complete with guttural growls and that signature smell. Scientists, not surprisingly, have a more boring explanation. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission says there's no evidence the skunk ape exists and that sightings are probably just misidentified black bears. Large wet bear that just scavenged a carcass could certainly explain both the look and the smell. But for those who have been deep in the swamp and caught a whiff of that horrifying stench, the thought of a bear is no comfort at all. They believe something else is out there, perfectly adapted to Florida's oppressive hidda, reclusive, foul-smelling primate that really wants to be left alone. We've arrived at number 1. At the legend that clawed its way out of a tiny southern town and into the nightmares of an entire nation, we're going to Fouke, Arkansas's population, a few hundred people, and one very large, very famous monster, the Beast of Boggy Creek, better known as the Fouke Monster. The legend truly exploded in 1971. That year, local family, the Fords, reported being attacked in their own home by a creature they described as huge, hairy, and aggressive. They claimed it reached right through a window, leaving behind scratch marks and a family so terrified they fled the house they had just moved into. This incident became the basis for the 1972 docudrama The Legend of Boggy Creek. The film, which used real locations and even cast some of the actual witnesses as themselves, turned a local scary story into a national phenomenon. Suddenly, everyone in America knew about the 7-foot-tall, 3-toed beast stalking the swamps, and the Fouke Monster was a star. Descriptions of the creature are chilling. 6 to 8 feet tall, covered in dark hair, with glowing red eyes and a horrible smell. But unlike other cryptids, the Fouke Monster has a reputation for aggression. Reports aren't just a fleeting glimpse. They're stories of livestock being killed, property being damaged, and the terrifying feeling of being hunted. The town of Fouke sits right on the edge of the Sulphur River bottoms, a dense, swampy landscape that seems custom-made to hide something like this. And the legend is still very much alive. The town's annual Fouke Monster Festival draws crowds, and the local Monster Mart is an unofficial museum of the creature. Sightings have never stopped. As recently as 2024, a prominent Fouke researcher reported observing a tall, dark, bipedal figure walking through the woods near a swamp, which vanished when he and 2 others gave chase. TV shows continue to investigate the area, finding strange evidence that suggests a large predator is still active there. Skeptics argue it's all just movie hype, with hoaxers faking tracks inspired by the film's success. But for the people of Fouke, from the witnesses back in the 70s to those reporting encounters today, the Beast of Boggy Creek is no movie monster. It's a very real and very terrifying part of their world. From the Wildman of Texas to the ghostly White Thing of Alabama, from the stinking Skunk Ape of Florida to the legendary Beast of Boggy Creek, the American South is home to some seriously terrifying Bigfoot-like legends. These creatures are more than just campfire stories. They're a reflection of the wild, untamed places that still exist on the map. Pockets of wilderness where the unknown can not only survive, but thrive. The accounts are compelling, the local belief is powerful, and the sightings just keep coming. So what do you think? Are these just cases of mistaken identity, where bears and folklore get tangled up in the shadows? Or does a hidden species of primate, ancient and elusive, truly roam the swamps and forests of the South? Let us know what you believe down in the comments. Have you ever had an experience in the woods you couldn't explain? And if you want to join us for more trips into the unknown, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. You don't want to miss what we find next.